Hi, everybody. Michelle and Josephine here. Happy 4th of July for the Americans.
Nice. How's the weather there?
It's been in the up to 100 or more. It feels like feels like 111. With the humidity, it's pretty bad. So I don't spend a lot of time outside.
No. It's the same here. Pretty much 40 Celsius is about 100 Fahrenheit, about
Oh,
that, or
okay.
even above. So
Yep.
we're not used to it, to that kind of heat, but with the fans and all, it's fine. I don't have an air conditioning because, quite honestly, let's face it, Canada doesn't get that hot, okay? This is not Florida after all, and it doesn't last long. We even wanted to get a pool, and we're thinking, well, what am I going to do? Use it for 2 weeks, and then it's going to start snowing? Forget about it. So we endure and suffer through it. That's it, right?
Right. I know. I couldn't do that because I have to sleep with the air very cold. I
Yeah.
bring it down to like 70 degrees at night. So I
Oh,
don't think,
that's nice.
yeah.
That's nice. So how's your week been,
Yeah, it's
Michelle?
been a few weeks. So one of the topics that we thought we'd bring up because of an experience I had a few weeks ago is when we have a trauma and the adrenals are activated. So what happened was a few weeks ago on my walk, I live in a condo neighborhood and I do this walk all the time. Me and my dogs walked. We're at the end of our walk and we hear a door open and I look up and I see these people walk out with a huge dog. I later find out it's a 120-pound Doberman. And I see the leash just like coming out of her hand and the dog started charging to us. And there was only like 25 feet. So I had to instantly figure out what to do. So I swung my two dogs behind me because I have two chihuahuas. They're about 10 pounds each. And then the dog came charging at me, came around me. And one of my dogs, who's super protective, must have jumped up because she thought the dog was coming to me. And all of a sudden, I see my dog's neck and this dog's
Oh, wow.
jaw.
Yeah, I know.
It
Awful.
was, and I'm screaming at the people, and I'm cursing, get your dog, get your dog. And then I see my dog wiggle out of its jaw. She took off running, and I'm thinking, well, she's running. She must be somewhat okay. And then the other dog took off running, and then I took off running. And they must have gotten their dog because it didn't chase us. So we're a little bit of a ways. I'm 55 years old, so running in flip flops. I'm
Oh,
running
yeah,
after my
right.
dogs and I'm screaming because I'm so like traumatized that I'm yelling after my dogs and then I'm yelling other things about their dog. And then I finally get to our condo and the dogs are sitting out there and I see my dog that was hurt licking her bloody paw. The blood was dripping from her neck. Well, I adopted her, this is her third home. So I adopted her when she was 5. So she already has a very anxious, skittish personality and she hides a lot. And, even though we're a nice, loving environment, she still has these things because she's got a lot of fear. So since I opened the door, she went hiding.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm thinking she probably went to her one spot, which is underneath the king size bed in the middle of the room. So then the lady followed me and she's standing outside. My other dog's barking at her because she's mad. And then I'm trying to it was crazy. So I finally was able to get her to come out in the crate, put her in a bag, and took her to the vet. She had 2 puncture wounds, one like here and one like right here. And the vet said that they both missed, it would have been a different outcome if the
Oh,
teeth
yeah.
slightly
Yes.
to the side because then it would
Yes.
have gotten her neck muscle and a
Yes.
vein right here.
Oh, yes. Oh.
So the guy paid for it, but the thing is, I've seen him before and it's a 20-foot nylon leash. Well, the lady said that she's as small as me. So she said that she can't handle the dog. She admits this to me. And I tell her, you're irresponsible then. This is your fault. You can't handle the dog. It's on an unacceptable leash. And so this is what happened. This is your fault. And I hope you learned your lesson. And then I tried to approach the guy because he is at the vet paying for it and apologize. And I said, you need your dog on a different leash and your girlfriend should not walk the dog. So he tried to defend his dog and I just left. But the moral of the story, other than experiencing that, is that I was all day, like there was nothing I can do to calm my body down. It was so traumatized and I couldn't even cry. Like I was in a state of complete shock. I was completely numb. And knowing hair mineral analysis, I was telling Josephine, I know my calcium must have just shot out to just kind of have this protective barrier in me.
Yes.
And it wasn't until the next day that my nervous system started to release a little bit, because then for the next 2-3 days, I would just cry, just out of nowhere, and just cry throughout the day. Like it was really hard for me to focus on work. And I just kept visually seeing, because it was like right in front of my face and all that. So it's taken all of us a couple of weeks. Dee Dee would not go outside. I had to force her to go outside to go to the bathroom. She did that for about 2 weeks. And then finally, I think when she started to heal her neck, she felt a little bit better about going outside. Plus I had to put her in the harness and she hates the harness. So after she screeches, she does a squeal that if you hear her, you think she's being kicked. It's really obnoxious. So she would do that every time I would put the harness, like try and take it off of her. And I thought, she's trying to tell me that it's time to use the collar. So I put the collar on her neck. It had healed. The stitches were still there. And so things have been fine. But we're still, my other dog that did not get injured, anytime she sees people or dogs, she just barks a lot worse than she did before. And then the other one who would, now she's a little bit more timid about that. I think because she got injured, she got hurt when she was trying to be like that with her personality. So she almost kind of retreated in her personality. So it's been, a tough couple of weeks. But yesterday, I was telling Josephine, yesterday we went out. I don't walk very far anymore. And somebody's out with their big dog with no leash. And I carry pepper spray now. And I told the lady, look, you need to get your dog, because if your dog comes near me, I'm going to have to spray it. And I don't want to do that. And, it's a shame that it comes to that. But the most frustrating thing about having small dogs is other people. It's other people and their big, nice, sweet dogs that are unleashed that come after me and my dogs. And this is not this is the first time one of my dogs has gotten injured, but it's not the first time that somebody is like, oh, my dog is really nice. And their huge dog is running after us because they think my dogs are a toy or something. And we've had to run. One time Dee Dee had to hide under the car. The dog's chasing her around the car. She had to go underneath. So it's really stressful having small dogs because of other people who are irresponsible.
And even if, let's say, they're big dogs, it could, even that was my worst nightmare, like I said to you, with a dog, because when they're off leash, even though two dogs meet, you never know how they're going to react to each other. Okay, they could start growling. I mean, I've seen these things. So it's like I've seen these dogs all of a sudden, they grab each other, and it's like, so it's traumatic, so it really is the responsibility of the owner. And it's not always, unless the owner really has a handle with their dog, and there are, but you can count them on your fingers on one hand, because it's not that easy, especially a Doberman. I mean, that Doberman.
Well, it's fair too. Like you can't just turn around and say, okay, my dog for sure won't hurt anybody. Well, who knows that? Again, if a big dog, if somebody, I'm 5'3", if some 7-foot basketball player, whatever, football player comes charging after me, but they're a nice person, I don't know that. Like I'm going to be scared and I'm going to be reactive. So that's the thing, is that these dogs may be coming to play, but to a small dog, that's a very threatening, scary thing. And then as a dog, owning a small dog, it's scary for me because now my dogs are scared and now they're barking and you're trying to control the situation. Then you got some stupid owner going, my dog is nice,
Oh,
just
gee, yeah. My dog is nice, but in the meantime, mine is bleeding.
right. And that's what I told him. He's like, well, my dog goes to doggy dog care and my dog's really friendly and good. I said, well, this morning your dog wasn't. And he
Right.
got defensive. And I'm like, I can't talk to you because you're trying to defend your dog when I saw your dog's jaw wrapped around my dog's neck and she may
Yeah.
not make it. Like, don't
Yeah.
talk to me about your dog being nice.
That's right. No, but I mean, this is the reactive. That's only normal to react in that kind of way. And for the owner, what else is he gonna say? He was probably in shock himself to see his dog doing the same thing,
Mhm.
doing something like that, because it's probably the first time that it's ever happened. But the thing with small dogs, whether I had heard that with Caesar Milan, okay,
Mhm.
he said that the thing with dogs, they don't know their size. They could start running after big dogs because they think they're as big as the big dogs, so they really are not like human beings when it comes down to that. Their perception is not the same as ours, but in this case, I think it was mostly because, like you said, they probably wanted to protect you when the dog was coming your way. Both of them, they're overprotective. That's normal because, especially since this is a dog that this is his third home, you know?
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah,
mean,
but I think, after learning from these experiences, now I see why my dogs overreact when they see other dogs because they are afraid. So
right.
I think they know that they're small. And I
Okay.
think that in order for them to not have a confrontation, they over exaggerate because they're trying to make themselves like, to deter these big dogs from coming near them or a threatening situation. So they're over exaggerating. But now I understand it because seeing the trauma and seeing how now Jasmine is responding more than she used to. She comes sometimes like she'll come out and she just starts barking. Like she's trying to say, I'm out here, you come near me. And like she's got to announce herself when we walk out the door.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the animals lately either because we had a lot of birds. We got crows, we got smaller birds and stuff. And the other day I'm outside and all of a sudden I see all these birds going after this one crow because this one crow probably was trying to go after the babies, and it's like, and I went in. It was like the movie Birds at that point, okay? But it was like very, very aggressive. They were ready to kill this crow, but the crow, of course, got away. The crows here, I've never seen any crows as big. I don't know. They probably are very well fed. I'm not sure. But again, the same thing with there must be something in the air lately because the animals or birds and they seem to be more aggressive than usual.
Yeah, and that makes sense because, if you think about the climate of our world and where we're at with so much conflict and division, and, we're all energetic spiritual beings. So we're all going to feel it, it just comes out. That's why it's important that we work and on ourselves and do our best to be, our best so that we can just trickle it out, but what's happening is that people aren't doing their part and it's causing, a lot of stress.
Yes,
So
exactly. So, I mean,
yeah.
even the animals are stressed. Imagine that. I mean, that tells you where we are in this world. It's like they're usually the ones who are there to relieve. We're there. We have them for them to relieve stress, and now it's
Right.
like they're joining us with the stress. It's
Yeah,
like
I know.
insanity, right? So,
I
anyway,
know.
I'm glad it all worked out because it could have
Yeah.
been way worse than what
Oh, it could
happened.
have been so much worse. I'm so grateful that she's okay. And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
frankly, she probably could have handled it more than my other Chihuahua. So, I'm grateful that she's okay and all of
Yeah.
that. But it definitely, paying attention to my body's response, I was really tired. I was sleeping a lot. I had no energy. My appetite was down. I saw the chemical changes that happened from that event, and I had to just let my body recover. So that's what I did over the last few weeks, is just recover and give them a lot of love and reassure them that they're safe, and things like that.
Yeah, so I mean, it can be very scary going for a walk with a dog. Basically,
Mm.
it's not, you don't have them on a leash, but other people may not have their dogs on a leash, and that's the problem. And we have laws for that. In this country, but like you, they don't always follow the laws, and they just like get them off leash, thinking. But an animal is an animal, I mean, let's face it.
Well,
They
the
may smell something.
personalities, you don't know how they're going to interact. Like,
That's
my parents' dog, she's a little, I call her bipolar, because she could be like super sweet and then she can just like attack. Well, when we were at their house, a couple years ago, staying there, Dee Dee, who got injured with this dog, they got into it.
oh,
Whereas Jasmine, even though she comes out like barking at everything, she is the absolute sweetest dog. She's extremely passive. If a dog comes near her, she puts her head down and she lets them sniff her. She immediately submits. Dee Dee doesn't submit. She's more
I,
aggressive. So,
right,
for
up front.
her, it made sense that she did that, because she saw that we were getting it. She saw that us, and she wanted to protect. So she came out attacking. Whereas Jasmine she's like, Mom swung me around. I'm going to hide behind her.
Yeah, so what did you do now? Did you send your hair analysis to see
No, I
where
was gonna
you're
wait,
at?
because, well, it takes a while for the hair to grow
Right,
out from that. So it's been 3 weeks. And I just did my hair test.
right,
So
right.
I may wait another couple weeks. I feel like it went down. Like, I think it came up, and
Yes,
that's why it was helping me sleep, and helping me deal with the trauma. But then I was crying for several days. And if you have a calcium shell, one of the best things you can do is cry.
right.
So when I've had a calcium shell in the past, sometimes I'll actually watch certain shows,
Movies, what? Yeah,
movies that'll make me cry, because it helps break down the shell.
yeah.
There's another practitioner who's a psychiatrist, and he recommends that as well. So, the crying is releasing, and it'll help bring down the calcium shell. It's in because the calcium shell, we're out of touch with our emotions. So you need to get in touch with your emotions in order to release that calcium shell.
Yeah, Larry used to do that a lot actually because he had a calcium shell. And every time he's under stress, when it happens, he gets a calcium shell because that's his usual pattern. It's like some people, it'll be four lows, others, it'll be fast oxidation with a low NAK. They'll go back into it or something.
Mm-hmm.
But the same thing, he would watch movies. He would watch certain shows that would make him cry and cry and cry.
Yep.
And then the shell would come down,
Comes
right?
down. Yeah.
No,
It
exactly.
definitely works. Yeah.
I should be doing that. Yeah, I don't know. Now I'm going to send my hair because I haven't sent my hair since seeing that I had a calcium shell. But it may be that it came down because I'm more fatigued, I'm more irritated and that type of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing how our biochemistry reacts to stresses. It's not always got to do with the food that we eat. A lot of it has to do with the stresses. I mean, Dr. Eck would talk about that all the time. It was always, I mean, his diet when he tell us to eat meat, because it was good for balancing the copper and stuff. Because when I had my hair analysis the first time in 1994, he was still alive, and then he passed away 2 years later. But I mean, so when I looked at the diet, I said, oh, well, I didn't really want to do it because it was meat, and I wanted to be on a vegetarian because I thought, well, I just started. Okay, I went on to this raw food diet. So I mean, it's not that Eck it wasn't around already for a long time, and that was at the beginning. You see, not many people knew about hair mineral analysis during that time either, and as much, let's say. But in Vancouver, people were On the West Coast, of course, it's like in California, they knew more, but he was dealing pretty much with stress more than anything else. And then the formulas that he created, the supplements, that was the detox. That's what makes our body change. It's really a supplements that makes our body change. So that's why, like taking 3 times a day, the supplements, some people have a reaction to it, like
It
right
would
away.
be too much. Yeah. And if
Yeah,
you're going through something, so another
yeah,
thing too that I like to explain to my clients is if you are detoxing or you're retracing and you're going through something, you may not need to do the diet and the supplements as much because those things already are doing that. So if you're going through it organically from other things, then you want to back off of those things to kind of level it out so that you're not doing too much. So it's
exactly.
okay. Like my clients will be like, oh, I haven't been on the diet and I haven't been taking as many supplements, but I've had all of this going on and they're feeling emotional. And I say, it's okay. It's your body's way of saying, that's too much and you're trying to regulate it. So,
That's it.
I'm not a you have to do everything perfectly kind of person.
No,
I believe that we're intuitive and that we naturally, if we listen and pay attention and not criticize ourselves, that there's a reason why we're doing certain things. So I've learned to pay more attention to that inner voice and, say, okay, I need to sleep. I need to just cut people out. I need to do this. And I allow myself to do those things now.
yeah, I mean, it's important to listen, and detoxing too much is not good. I mean, it's
Mm-mm.
okay, but for some people, they can handle it, no problem. There's some people, they are, well, let's go, they really like it. And, but I found lately, interestingly enough, because this program is not a program that makes you feel good all the time, because
No.
sometimes we go through retracing. It could happen even at the beginning of the program. And I've noticed lately with certain people that are practicing HTMA, they're practitioners, and then you hear the testimonials of their clients. It's either a placebo effect because they're doing exactly what we're doing, and the people are gung ho with the practitioner and they really think they're doing really well, because most of the time that's what it is. They're dumping a lot, but when you dump a lot, you don't feel good when you're dumping a lot of aluminum and copper. And these people, it's like, oh yeah, I'm feeling really well. So beware when you're listening to different podcasts, different webinars, and there are a lot of scammers out there. And I mean, I'm serious. I mean, because I didn't realize that. I mean, until a few, maybe a month or so, 2 months ago, all of a sudden, it seems like after the pandemic, everything has like gone crazy because maybe people are more afraid. They want to detox their bodies. They want to eliminate some toxins because a lot of them took the this, you know, and
But
so
they
they
get too
see,
obsessed with it. And
yes,
we can't be obsessed with detoxing. Like our bodies have been relying on certain things for a while as kind of a crutch. So it takes time to replace those metals that took over those minerals that were depleted in the body. So you need to replenish the minerals in order for the metals to leave, and it can be a slower process for those that are in four lows, those are that are in extreme slow oxidation. Those people are going to be more challenged. A fast oxidizer, you might see, or someone who's young, you might see hair tests where all of a sudden they go from maybe a four low, but because they're younger and they just do a few things and they have this explosion on their hair test. But that's not everybody,
no,
and that's okay that that's not going to happen for you. So I
right,
try to explain that to my
yeah,
clients, like, don't, and don't, I have a client that if I tell her her NAK dropped down, she's like, oh no, that's a bad hair test. I'm like, no, like, don't label things good and bad. Like your body has to go through like this, kind of like a rocking thing where you'll go one way for a little bit, then you have to settle down and go the other way, and then you go whatever. But I like to look at the hair test from the very beginning to the most recent, not just the most recent hair test, because then we can see, I may have a client that hasn't been able to let go of iron. That could be a hard one for people. And then all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, this is the most that I've seen iron come up on a hair test, even though it's in a poor eliminator pattern. Well, that's good, because 3 years ago, you weren't even close to that. So that, it just takes time for some people to eliminate. So you don't want to you can't compare yourself to other people.
No, you can't. And there's a lot of different indicators too that tells when you look at the tests, when people, let's say like a client whose NAK drops, that also is an indicator of what happened within those 3 months, just like you, let's say, with the stress that happened. Okay. So this gives you an idea of what you've been through. For 3 months, you'll look at your hair and you'll say, well, yeah, I've been through this. So this is pretty normal that my NAK, let's say, or my calcium shelf shoot up, starting to come down or whatever. So, I mean, because it's mostly, the body's mostly reactive to our stress. Now, we live in a very stressful world, like we talked about that before, but I don't know how stressful it is. Imagine during World War I, World War II, it's like maybe we are a bit more sensitive today. I know there's more poison, like we said, with food and stuff, but nonetheless, I think we're wimps. We're much more wimpy than people back then in the early 1900s. I mean,
They have better
knew.
food quality. They had,
So,
a lot less. They didn't have social media. They didn't have TV with the news blasting all this horrific stuff all the time. So these are things that they're causing stress. And when you have too much stress in your life, it depletes certain things like zinc and magnesium, and then messes with your NAK ratio because we lose sodium and potassium. If we're stressed, we're going to usually urinate too much. And during the urination, we're losing the sodium and potassium. So then the calcium, magnesium are not being able to be held in solution. So then they start to come out. So all this stuff happens. But, doing this for so many years, now I can look at my hair test and go, maybe I have to make some changes in my life because this isn't serving me well. And so I use it as a tool that, when I make changes in my life, not just diet and supplements, but actual life changes.
Yeah.
How am I responding to that? Because sometimes we can be numb, especially those in a calcium shell, you can be completely numb to what's really going on. So you have to kind of look at it and go, well, why does this keep happening? So I use it as a tool for that. I think that's one of the reasons why I've made some changes in my personal life recently, because I feel like it wasn't serving me well on a health level. And so that's another thing is I'll see that with people who come to me is that they got things in their personal life that are causing their health problems. But until you're ready to see that, like I would never tell anybody that, but because you need to be ready to see it yourself. But I use that as a tool, the hair test as a tool, if this is good in my life or not, if it's serving me well or not.
Yeah. And, by starting with the diet, as we do when people come to us, or with ourselves as well when we started. So by starting with the diet, we discipline ourselves much more. And by eliminating some of the foods and not eating as much carbs, blah, 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 all of a sudden feelings do start coming up anyways. Then you start to know thyself a little bit more. Okay, so once you start knowing thyself, you become a little bit more aware, like Eck would say, right? Because this whole program is about awareness eventually. Hopefully, with that awareness, you're not going to become crazy or anything like that, in the sense of taking on some fancy ideas and whatever. And so being aware and grounded.
Happen. That can happen. So when people are eliminating too much copper, or I saw this when I was detoxing about 4 years ago, copper elimination, it kind of messes, like you get too up in the
Yes.
realms, you know.
Yes.
So
Yes.
a lot of these spiritual people, you know, the new agey people, not, you know, I'm a very open-minded person. I open-minded to all kinds of things, but sometimes there's a little bit too much going on. And I realize now it's the copper. It's the
Yes.
copper that can mess with our brains a little bit.
That's right, exactly. So, I mean, it can give us a certain awareness, but if you
Right,
end up with too much copper, you become like Darwin, who him
right.
he suffered from pylorrhea, which is a copper problem, excess, excess, excess. You're very bright, but eventually you kind of lose it. You're like, you see things that probably are not there or whatever. So you got to double check. You got to realize that a lot of it could be with copper, because once
Well,
you
that's where
start eliminating, yes,
schizophrenia, a lot of mental illness is from
yes,
people who have
copper,
excess copper and manganese. And they
that's right.
found in studies of people who've been in jail or in, you know, mental institutions is that they had a elevation of these things. So, you know, that's another thing to be aware of is that, you know, we're going to go through periods where we're not quite grounded. So,
Yeah, that's right. So,
yeah.
and that's, and you know that at that point, when that happens, when you see your hair, you have to question yourself what's going on, and slow down your sympathetic nervous system by going to bed earlier, and so that makes a big difference. Relaxing, read a good book, try not to spend too much time on this,
Say
that type of
no.
thing. Yeah,
No is a complete sentence. You don't have to
yes.
say yes to everything.
Right, right, exactly, right. So, I mean, overall, I mean, this program, I mean, even if you wouldn't have been on this program, but you wouldn't have known you when you went through this trauma with your calcium shell, you felt it going up, you felt your calcium shooting up because that's your mode of modus operandi for you, because that's your pattern where you block yourself off. So it's a cover up for your stress. Otherwise, you probably would have lost it. Why you
Right.
would have?
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
exactly.
completely,
But now I
absolutely.
understand it. So I
Yes,
can go, okay, the reason why I feel this way is because my body is, I let myself cry for 3 days. And anytime I needed to cry, I just did
yeah,
it because I knew that that was me trying to calm my nervous system down and to get rid of the calcium shell. Whereas some people might try to deny it or think there's something wrong, you know. So now I know how to navigate through these things because I understand what's happening on a chemical, you know, through
yeah,
hair tests and mineral
yeah,
imbalances.
yeah.
So
I
it's
mean, it's much cheaper than doing the blood tests, and it's much more accurate, and we get to know much more than we would find out about, because it's a trend, right? It starts, we're trending towards diabetes, but we're not diabetic yet, but doesn't mean we couldn't be, because it shows that we have trends that we
yep.
have. So by cutting certain food, which is
Mhm.
good, and then reintroducing some food, like you said, we have to take it easy. Life is whatever it is, and we can't really worry. There's many things that's going to happen in the near future that's going to make us react. Could happen today, as a matter of
Mhm.
fact. We don't know. So it's the way we react to situation that makes such a big difference. And
And how we come out of it. You know, it's okay
yes,
to be angry at somebody who
yes,
cut you off in traffic. It's totally okay. It makes sense to be mad at
yes,
somebody when that
yes,
happens. But, you know, are you going to hold it for like a week or two? You know, the same story. And I noticed when I
yeah,
did
right.
see that dog, my heart pounded and I was reactive, but I came out of it very quickly because I was like, okay, it's gone, let it go, and moved on. Some things do take a little bit longer, like 3 weeks ago, but you just want to make sure that, you know, there's an acceptable time for it to let it go. Like we want to go through the emotions and what we need to experience, but we don't need to hold on to it forever.
Right. It's an acceptance as well. It's like when you lose someone, it's the same thing, right? Whatever time it takes to process it. Some people can process the loss of someone really fast, but then a few years later, it starts to come back
Comes up.
again,
Mhm.
right? It comes up again. So it all depends on the person, on the way we handle things. So, I
Oh,
mean,
sure. My
right?
uncle passed away back in February, and my aunt and I were driving down to my parents' house the other day, and we were talking. And she wants to, she did a hair test and she wants to get healthier. But she goes, I don't want to deny myself certain foods right now because there's so much going on. I said, that is totally okay. Like you need to do things in phases, and that's right now the least important thing. And you have other stuff that you're working on. So it's okay. Don't deny yourself. Don't let people make you feel guilty about it, that you
Right.
should, you'll take care of it when you're ready. If you try and do it now when you've got all these other things that you're dealing with from the death, then you're going to shut down. It's going to be overwhelming.
Yeah, and it would be too much. I mean, let's face it. I mean, sometimes it's not always the best time to start something like this. And if you start, you don't have to do the whole 100%.
Right.
You can do 80%, you do 60%. That's better than doing nothing at all. That's what I say. Because
Yeah.
with Eck, it was like that anyways. Eck was not really like with the baton, when he gave me his interpretation, it was only this, and didn't get into too much. But he knew that whatever I would be doing, that change was going to occur. Although I didn't do it, but that's how confident he felt about it. So he was not the type of having these rules, too
Yeah.
much rules.
I read in
Eating,
his book about energy and stuff, and the minerals, he does talk about, he advises you to take a break from your supplements,
right, right.
like once a week, or, fast oxidizer, they might be able to do a week, a slow oxidizer might be able to do a day or two, like give yourself a break.
That's right. So it's like common sense. Also, when you're not feeling too good, you find that you're sluggish, or maybe you need a new program, or just getting off the supplements is fine. Because, I mean, we don't change that fast. Some people do change real fast. Some people within a few months, they could go from fast to slow, slow to fast, depending. I have some clients like that, but in general, we don't make these big changes, because the stress is always the same most of the time, right? So him, that's what he really focused on
Yeah.
overall. So it's like, so even if we eliminate a lot of cadmium, you eliminated a lot of aluminum, and you think, oh, wow, now it's all gone. I don't have to deal with this anymore. But that's when you work.
No, we're
It
always
don't
getting
work
it.
that. That's right. It's an ongoing thing. It's we're work in progress. I mean, we're being pissed on with all kinds of things, and food, like we said, is not the same. So you're going to ingest again some food,
Right.
even if you buy organic. That's what we're told, they're organic, and they probably are, certified organic. But then you got the other ones, the other farm next door, who's being sprayed
Right.
everywhere, and so it's
Blowing.
going on the other side. So it's like, all right. So what we're doing is really trying to maintain ourselves the best we can.
Mhm.
Okay, doesn't mean we won't die, by the way, because there is such a thing as dying eventually, right? But for the time being, while we're here, it gives us a discipline, and we feel better with it. That's it. It's a way of feeling better, because the food that we were eating before, a lot of the processed food did not make us feel that good. Tasted good, but it didn't make us feel good.
Mhm.
So that's all.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what we were going to talk about today, was just, understanding that stuff's going to happen. Like sometimes I try to shield myself so much, and there's nothing that you can do. It's going to happen because we can't control other people. I can't get all these people to leash their dogs and be responsible. So, it's things are going to happen. It's just moving through it, allowing yourself to rest, understanding that your nervous system is trying to regulate itself. So you might cry, you might sleep, and those things are normal. And then you just kind of work through it. And, 3 weeks later, we're all much better.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so it's part of life, right?
Mhm.
You can't wake up one morning. You never know what's going to happen, right? So it's like, You didn't expect that when you got out of your front door 3 weeks
No.
ago.
Yeah, I was 8:15 in the morning. It was a terrible way to start my day. It was horrific, but
Yes.
like you said, you don't know what's going to happen. You think you're going to have just this normal carefree day that you normally do, and then something just, comes out of left field. And, having because the body was stronger, I was able to respond and go through that process. So you kind of look at it that way too. If we're constantly I used to live in a constant state of fight or flight. And then what happened was if somebody came near me or whatever, I would jump because I was in such a constant state of stress that everything startled me. And I see that with people. We have to give ourselves periods that we're not stressed. You can't be living in a constant state of stress. I see it in some people, my clients, they just won't let go of the stress. The addiction to cortisol is probably worse than heroin because,
Yes.
this is how people are
Yeah.
living. They're living in a
Yes.
constant state of busyness and
Yes.
stress because if we're
Stimulant.
slow, if we calm down and we're in peace and quiet, then for a lot of people, they feel like that they're nobody. And
That's it.
so because we find our value in certain things in relationships in our career and how we're showing up in the world. So when we're just being and doing nothing, we feel like nothing. And so I think that's why people are addicted to keeping themselves busy and stressed out, because then they feel like nothing when
Yeah.
nothing's
I
going on.
That's right. And I think it's also the peer pressure that people have as well to succeed in certain things, and not letting go. They're not capable of letting go and not letting God drive. And but thanks be to God for you that things ended up working out. I mean, somehow, some way, Didi is much better. I mean, it could have been much worse. It could have been much more traumatic. Oh my goodness, I could just see it. So, and it doesn't appear as though you're going to be suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder from this. So, which is really good, you know. Had it happened to me, I think I would have been, because I already suffer from that. It would have been the film. The film would have been going
Yeah.
on, and I would have had to do 20 million rosaries for it to go, because it would have been, because it would have been traumatic. It is for you, but you don't suffer from that as much, let's say. So somehow, some way, things ended up working out, and she's already starting to heal. It's
And
gonna
I
take
had to,
time.
for their sake, I didn't want them to be afraid. Like I knew that
Right.
it was going to be life changing anyway. So I had to just slowly do little things at a time. I just said, okay, we're just going to go right outside the gate. You're going to pee real quick and we'll go back inside. And then over that time period, I tried to move her a little bit further away to help her overcome her fear, because we can't live in a bubble. I mean, I'm in a condo, like we don't have a backyard.
No,
So
you have to go out. Exactly.
I
That's
was
right.
forced to get through it
Yeah,
because,
that's right.
yeah.
Exactly. It's not like you had the backyard, like you said, then they could go in and out and
Mhm,
do whatever they wanted to. So they kind of had to face their fear,
mhm,
especially Didi, that she wanted or not. So
yeah.
she did, and she is. It's going to take time. But I mean, already she was marked, as they say. She's already in a bit of fear. She was already, and this happened to her. It's
Yeah.
like
And I
unbelievable.
don't, and I want to, I'll be buying a home, but, now I'm a little bit more patient with it and I'm not reactive, because once you get out of the hormones of stress, you won't be as reactive. People who make impulse decisions, they're living off of the hormones of stress. So when you're impulsive, you have to stop and think, okay, why am I being impulsive? It's probably because you're living off the hormones of stress. So once I calmed down the hormones, in the beginning, I was just like, I literally wanted to kill these people. Like I was so angry. That's what that does to you. And then once I calmed down, I was like, okay, now I got to be reasonable. Yes, I do want to move because ultimately it's safer for us if they have a yard, but I don't want to be reactive and just go anywhere. I want to make sure we go to a right place, and I'm going to pray about it and be guided instead of reactive about it.
Exactly. That's right. So, I mean, it's just preparing you for, we don't always know why things happen to us, but a lot of times it's a way to prepare us for much bigger stresses in our lives that may be coming up, and how we are going to deal with it will we react to it, or will we just not engage in things
Right.
that we know is just going to cause us even more stress. And the more stressed we are, the more fatigued we are, the more burnout we are, the more we want to be in bed and cry and cry and cry. We cannot even, we're not productive at that point. Can be productive.
Yeah, it's very debilitating.
Very, very. So it's the 4th of July. So what are you going to be doing today?
I'm not going to do much because I was busy all weekend. So I have a little bit of work to do, run some errands. Yeah, nothing really.
Are they celebrating there in Texas? Have you noticed?
Well, there were fireworks last night. Thankfully, the dogs don't get, I'm lucky my dogs don't, fireworks
Thank
don't
God.
bother them. Yeah.
Okay.
They weren't too bad here. I've lived in places where I'm like, oh my gosh, please, people. You know? So hopefully tonight they're not too bad. And that people are safe, you know, because a lot of people are, you know, again, irresponsible. They want to get their own fireworks, and then they put their kids and people in danger. So be safe with the fireworks, be safe with drinking, you know, just be safe in general. And, you know, everybody have a great day.
Yeah, that's right. So happy 4th of July. And don't forget to
Like,
subscribe, right?
right?
Like, subscribe. And if there's anything, there is someone has asked that we talk about the sauna, because for him,
Yes.
the sauna was life-changing. So maybe we could talk about the sauna eventually soon.
Yeah, we'll talk
because,
about that next. We'll talk about sauna, detox, you know,
coffee
things like
enemas.
that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds
Yeah.
good. All right. Looking
All
forward
right.
to seeing you again.
Thanks. Bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye-bye.